52 minutes past 7 here this morning on OTB AM. Delighted to say Ronald Dwyer is with us to talk about the weekend's hurling. Ryan, how are you?
Good, yeah.
Are you a believer in the black card? Is that something that you think?
No.
I've yet to meet somebody who has ever hurled who actually thinks the black card is a good idea for hurling.
Well, like, look, when you're making a decision like they're going to make, well, first of all, if you're making that decision, test it out in the Walsh Cup or the Waterford Crystal. There's no need to. I know the way Congress is on in late February that they can't really do that, but like, put it in place now for next year's Walsh Cup or whatever. But there's no need to be bringing it in now for the end of the league and start a championship or anything like that. Like, it's just throwing everything off kilter. But when you're making a decision like this, you ask, I suppose, the main contributors to it, the main people in it, and that's the players. None of the players want it. None of the managers want it. And I don't think there's any, personally, I don't think there's any players that are going to go out there and do the cynical things that they're talking about at the highest level, at inter-county level, because it's such a fast game. I might get crucified for this now, but football it's a bit of a slower game, and it's a lot more tactical. It's like
there's more opportunity to be cynical.
There's more opportunity. It's like American football. Everything is structured. So there's a lot more opportunity. Hurling, yeah, you'll have your cornerback pulling and dragging when the ball is up the other end of the pitch, and the ball is dropping in between you. You're fighting for the ball, but it's more of a raw aggression.
So mostly it doesn't happen, but when it does happen, what is a suitable punishment?
Oh, well, you're probably asking the wrong person there. Play on. Like,
I actually thought that as a forward you would have been in favour of, so because there's definitely instances where somebody gets dragged down when they're through. Like
the Clare Leach game yesterday, for example, like we saw.
Yeah. Well, this time of the year anything can happen because you saw the conditions yesterday. Some lads are barely able to feel their hands. But I think during the summer, if it's obvious, like a lad through and goal and being dragged down, which it does happen. Yeah, I think have your punishment, have your free yellow card, whatever. But I just don't think. I'm not a fan of the idea of someone going off for 10 minutes. Now, if it happens to the opposition and I'm playing, then I'd be all for it. But but look, I as a whole, I'm not for it. And I think if you ask the main resources of the game, the players, none of them are for it either. So I think the decision makers should really listen to the players in this, and the managers are calling for it as well. There will be cynical play, but you don't hear any of the players complaining.
Why not though?
I think it's just the way hurling is. It's a raw.
I agree with you, right? Except that you can see that there's a benefit to cynical play, and we've seen in all sports unless you punish cynical play, players are going to get more and more cynical. Like,
yeah, I suppose.
Kerry still complained about somebody not taking
Kavanagh doing the rugby tackle,
or not somebody not taking McManaman down when he was making the run. Like, it's your job to be cynical.
Yeah, I agree, but you have to ask the question. I know you're saying that if cynical play creeps in, it's going to stay going worse and worse, but I think you have to ask the question, I know get it before it gets bad, but is the cynical play bad enough in hurling that you need to introduce the black card? Personally, I don't think it is. People they'll play on the edge, or if at that level they should be playing on the edge. But I just don't think
something's going to happen in an All-Ireland semi-final or final.
Yeah, well,
and it's going to be one of the traditional powerhouses who win an All-Ireland because they're better at this kind of stuff. That's going to stop a Wexford or a Dublin or a Clare or even a Limerick winning a second one. Cork or Tipperary and Kilkenny are going to benefit from this in a big game, and everybody's going to go, Jesus.
Yeah, it's the dark arts of the game that you learn.
They're not that dark. They're very public.
I know there's a few things you do and you don't get caught. No, it's those things. But it's like, look, if you're going down on a ball and you see someone there to give your lad an opportunity, grab your hands, hurl you or whatever. That's part of the game. A lad through on goal with a minute to go and a rugby tackle, that's not part of the game. And
so what happens in that instance? That's fair.
Yeah. I can see why they're.
Do you make it a penalty? Would a penalty rather than 10 minutes be fine?
Well, then you have it's all about the discretion of the ref then.
And people start diving. I mean, hurlers aren't going to dive, but of course they will.
It's in the game as it is.
I would book everybody who dives, and or like if there was a black card, it should be, maybe it's just a penalty. Anybody who dives gives away a penalty, no matter where it is in the pitch, and likewise a rugby tackle or a clear goal-scoring opportunity denied is a penalty. And
yeah, I agree 100% with that, but that's going to cause arguments as well, because it's like everything. There's one man in the middle of the pitch that dictates all this.
Yes.
And look, not for love nor money, never would I become a ref, because no matter what they do, I can't curse here. No matter what they do, someone will think they're wrong anyway. I don't know, would a way of introducing that, maybe a ref on each side of the pitch?
Or empower the umpires and make them referees.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you there, but you see at intercounty level, a lot of them are the 60-year-olds wearing the glasses that are out for the day. Maybe make them do a course as well. I don't know, make them do maybe they have to be qualified referees, just not at intercounty level, maybe a club ref, but someone that knows the rules can contribute to the decisions that the ref makes.
That makes sense.
But the black card, I'm still not a fan of it, and the simple reason is because I suppose I'm traditionalist in this when I say this, but hurling, like a lad that used to coach Dublin there a couple of years ago, Ross Dunphy, he's a Wexford man, and he came from a football background. But I asked him one day, what do you find the difference between the hurlers and footballers? He just said, hurling is it's a warrior's game, and there's an honesty to it. I know lads might be pulling, and there might be a bit of cynical play, but by and large, because it's a quicker game, you don't really get the time to be too cynical. And if there is someone through on goal at the last minute and you're up by 2 points, yeah, you will pull them down, and hopefully they don't score the goal. And I think, yeah, it is cynical, but I think it's doing everything for the cause. Maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot there, but I'm contradicting myself. I know I am, by saying it's part of the game and it is cynical, but I just think introducing a black card is going to cause more trouble than sport, because there's a massive grey area there and you see it in football. I know it's a lot better, but you see it in football.
It will entice people to dive?
I don't think it will entice, no.
So what's the fear?
It's those 50-50 calls that will I give a yellow card or will I give a black card? And I think that's where it will, and it's back on the referee again. What you interpret as a yellow card, what you interpret as a black card, and you're on about happening in All-Ireland semi-final. If it happens there, it's in the spotlight. We saw last year Kilkenny against Limerick, the linesman should have seen the very last ball that got touched off Killian Buckley's hurling out for 65. That cost, I'm not saying it cost Limerick the game, but it cost them a chance of going into extra time or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, Kilkenny could have won anyway.
Maybe, but like...
But it's still, it's those inches, and I think if it's not broken, don't fix it. I don't think it's broken at the moment.
Okay. Have you ever played in conditions as bad as yesterday?
Yeah, but yes, it was horrible. I personally, and it's just a personal thing, I don't think any of the games should have been on this weekend. Hurling is just like, geez, went training yesterday and you go to catch the ball and you're like, no, hurley to everything now today. It's too cold. But yeah, I don't think like you want to see hurling at its best, and it wasn't at its best yesterday. Now some cracking games, but it wasn't at its best yesterday because the conditions didn't facilitate it. Like you saw the Clare game there, I think there was just over 1,000 people at the match. Like, is that doing anyone any favour? And you wonder how many of them were actually family of the players and all that.
Yeah,
like, so
have to be there.
You'd wonder how many supporters would want to go to a game when the conditions are like that. I know I didn't fancy it anyway, but yeah, look, I suppose you have to ask the question then, if you do call off the game, when do you facilitate it? Like the fixture calendar it's very condensed as it is. That's another debate. But
so why do we have quarterfinals and semi-finals in the hurling league then?
Personally, I wouldn't have the quarterfinals. I'd have the semi-finals. Like, you get enough chance. You might say that then towards the end of the league there's going to be a few dead rubber games, and a fifth playing sixth or whatever. and it's a dead rubber game, which I agree with. Yeah, or you could have a relegation. Like, you could, the same weekend as the quarter final, you could have the bottom two playing, and then the weekend of the final, then the loser of both of them from each side of the league playing in the relegation final or whatever. I think with the quarter final in there, I think it's a weekend, a wasted weekend that you could have had. You could have had a semi-final, final, and then you're back to the clubs.
Yeah.
Facilitating the clubs a little bit better.
Presumably the manager will actually find some value in those games. Like, it beats training having a quarter final, which will be relatively competitive.
Yeah, but there's only going to be 4 teams in the quarter final.
So it's four inter-county setups benefiting from this, and everybody else kind of losing a week of club fixtures.
And like I think the way the championship is structured now with the round robin, look, it's a whole different debate, but the way that's structured, I won't say it devalues the league, but it gives you more leeway to find players during the league. Like, the way it was the last couple of years before it has changed, is there was a massive emphasis in the league because
you had to be ready to go.
You had to be ready to go, and especially in Division 1A, you didn't want to get relegated, and it was so competitive that you could win the league one year, the next year you're relegated. So there was a massive intensity, there was a massive drive to do well in the league. You didn't have to win it, but to do well, and just to avoid that drop, because you're getting higher standard games. And then the first couple of rounds of championship were always a little bit of a downer, and then coming back up for the knockout stages again. But I just think, I think the league, the way it is now, I think it's what it should be used for, to find players, develop players. I know that you can't control the weather, but just to find players and have your best team for the championship.
At times, though, we are getting great encounters, and if it was a good day yesterday in Wexford Park, we would have got a brilliant game. I suspect, I think even in the conditions, it was very exciting. According to John Fogarty's match report, there was booming dance music coming out of the Wexford dressing room after the encounter. This matters to Davy Fitz. He will say that the record doesn't mean anything at all, no losses in 6 games against Brian Cody, but this matters. Like, winning that game yesterday was huge for Wexford.
I think psychologically it's massive, because I always compare Kilkenny, and it's probably the same when I was playing with Dublin. Kilkenny are like the All Blacks. It's the whole aura about them. It's the culture about them. It's they nearly have a lot of teams bet before the game even starts, because it's Kilkenny. Especially we'll say the early 2000s, mid 2000s. The players they had then were phenomenal, but that whole aura about them continued. And I think if Wexford, and if it becomes a habit with them that they're used to beating Kilkenny, they won't have that fear. They won't have that fear that a lot of teams have against the All Blacks when it comes to rugby. So I think it meant a lot to him. I think it meant an awful lot to Wexford yesterday, and you could see it in Davy's face. But like, Davy would be arguing with a bag of crisps if there was something crumpled in it. Like, but he's just that way. But like, he's so passionate about it, and everyone feeds off that. Like, you're saying the music was blaring in the dressing room after. I have no doubt there was music going before, and in the dressing room there was a bit of banter. He creates a great atmosphere, and this is speaking not just people in the Wexford dressing room, people in the Clare dressing room, people previously in the Waterford dressing room. He creates a bit of I suppose a few situations, kind of an us against them situation, a siege mentality. He definitely creates that, and you can see that in every interview he gets. Everyone is conspiring against him. But I think in a dressing room, it's like he creates a family situation where it's a situation that every team should want to get to, but I don't think everyone has the power to create that environment. But he definitely has that, where it's a family, it's all us, we're in this together. And you know, I think the game against Kilkenny will stand to him. Now, it is adding fuel to fire for Kilkenny when they come up against Wexford again, because you don't want to give Kilkenny any motivation. But I think psychologically they're not going to fear Kilkenny now, especially I think the last 6 times they played, they've won 5 of them and drew 1 or something similar to that.
How did you manage to break down the aura of the All Blacks element of Kilkenny?
Well, I'll tell you, we had a great man in with us at one stage, Declan Kyle. I'm sure you've heard of him, the Green Platform. I'm just plugging his book there, The Green Platform. He was in with us. He gave us a belief, and I suppose gave us a confidence in ourselves. And then who we had in the sideline was Anthony Daly, and like he's another cut from. I've never met a St. Clair person, to be honest. So I've said that plenty in the past. They're all. There's a screw missing with all of them. I think the further west you go, it's just they're all crazy, but especially Clare. But I think just having him on the sideline and just every match we played with Dalo, whether it was a challenge or championship or league, whatever it was a war. And you know that, and I've been quoted as saying this, you know that if you're in the trenches with Dalo, that he'll be the first out because you know he'll do anything for you, do you know? And that fed, we fed off that. So I think there's a few things that got us over the hump against Kilkenny. But then, like, we might go out the couple of weeks after, play them again, and we'd be brutal. We weren't consistent. Maybe that was a psychological thing as well. We were believing too much in our own hype. But I suppose that's another story as well. But
we can come back to that sometime. I want to ask about Tony Kelly, because whatever about Wexford feeling the benefit of it, Tony Kelly's going to feel the benefit of 8 points. Half of them weren't from frees.
Four from play, and like, he was everywhere. Like there was times he's back in the full back line. He scored a point. You swear he was playing corner forward. He was an engine up and down the field. I think having him midfield gives him freedom where he can go anywhere. Like he used to be playing centre forward, and you see him coming back nearly in the half back line a lot. But he was more restricted. That, like, right, you can come back, but you have to revert back up to centre forward. I think with him midfield, it gives him the freedom, the license just to go wherever he wants. And like you'd nearly, if you're playing against him, forget about Clare. If you're just playing against him, you'd nearly sacrifice a player that's right. You have to follow him no matter where, just to cancel him out. Like,
and very hard to do, though, right?
It's very hard to do that, because any player, they want to hurl themselves. So it is very hard to do as a manager. It's very hard to do as a player, especially when you see Tony Kelly. That's a hard job anyway. But yeah, it's. I think.
Is he fast?
He's probably faster than me. That's not hard though. I think he just, like, he has a turn. You saw there, yes, he scored a point, and it came out. It was hand passed back out to him, and he went on to his right. And then he kind of sold the man. Like, he didn't even go to hit it, but you thought he was going to hit it, and then turned, and all of a sudden he had 6-7 yards of space. He's very similar to Dermot Connolly. Like, Dermot Connolly isn't overly fast, but he turns, and all of a sudden he's got loads of space, and he never looks like he's rushing at him. Tony Kelly's the exact same. He never looks like he's trying to do anything too quick. He's in his own comfort zone. Which I suppose this comes to a psychological thing as well. He set his standard high. His comfort zone is someone else's. Oh, I don't know what's going on here.
He's only 26. I had to look it up there just to make sure. Like, this should be his peak.
Yeah, you'd imagine he's hitting his peak now. Like, my first intro, I didn't hear him until 2012. We played Clare down in Cusack Park, and he scored the winning goal in the qualifiers. And like, who the hell is this lad? Like, I never even heard of him before. It seems like ages ago, and he's still only 26. Like, yeah. It's crazy. But look, I think he's hitting his prime years now. And if he can get the supporting cast around, I'm not saying it's going to be a one-man show, because Clare had a lot of performers yesterday now. Like, there was a lad cornerback, Corey. Never really heard of him, and I thought he was phenomenal yesterday. Shannon, when he came on, was just phenomenal. And there was a few, McInerney out to midfield. I suppose I played against him, and I was full forward, he was full back, and I was like, I hate this lad. So as a full forward, I'd be delighted to see him go out the pitch, but like, he played really well yesterday. Like, if you'd have said it to me beforehand, I'd have said, do you know, I'd be keeping him full back, maybe centre back, whatever. But seeing him yesterday, I was like, yeah, do you know, you're onto something here. So I think he does have a supporting cast around him, but like the way he carries himself, the hurling he does, and he's not greedy. Like, he lets the ball off. He's not, oh, I'm going to go on a solo run here. I'm going to take a shot from 90 yards under pressure. He he'll let the ball in and he'll take a score when he has a chance.
It's interesting how that middle third in hurling at the moment seems to be a fairly fluid thing, because you talk about Tony Kelly going between 11 and midfield. If you look at the Dublin game, then you've got a load of scores coming from Ryan McBride in midfield. You've got Chris Crummy, who I think was wearing 6 but is playing as a centre forward essentially.
Yeah, he started the game midfield, but then in the second half he went centre forward a couple of times. I don't know, was he... See, like you said, it's hard to see in a game the kind of, I'll say the half forwards and midfield are nearly playing as one unit, but like it looked as if he was centre forward, but then he was coming back towards the middle of the field. Whether that's an experiment that will work, I don't know. But like, to answer your question, yeah, I think the way hurling is played, lads are hitting the ball further. The ball is a lot better than it was maybe 15, 20 years ago. The striking is better. I think the midfield is nearly being bypassed at some stages. So I think it gives the two midfielders nearly, one of them a chance to nearly sit and play as 7 backs. One of them has a chance to go forward, play as 7 forwards. And it just, yeah, you saw Ryan McBride. What did he score? 2 points anyway. He definitely scored 2. But yeah, he loves shooting anyway, to be honest. But like, he was just driving through the middle the whole time as a support runner. I don't know, have Dublin been working on it, that when someone gets the ball in the half-hour line, that if they can't go themselves, that they know he's going to be running off their shoulder like a crash ball in rugby or something.
Last question for you about this: how are Dublin doing at the moment? Where are they in their evolution?
If you ask me this next week, I'll give you a better answer, because I think they've played Carlow and Laois 2 games that they were expected to win. Especially Carlow are missing a few lads, but I think 2 games they're expected to win. The Kilkenny game was very disappointing. Kilkenny are missing so many players. I covered the game that day, and I was very disappointed. Just with the whole manner, like, they didn't, whatever about their hurling, it looked like they
weren't ready for the fight.
Yeah, they weren't ready for the fight. Yeah. So I think next week in Croke Park against Wexford, I think that's going to be a gauge on where they stand at the moment, what their hurling's like, how much fight is in them. Because at the end of the day, give me 15 dogged, determined hurlers rather than 15 flashy hurlers. You know, they'll be the ones that will grind out a victory. And do Dublin have it? I think they do. Have I seen it? I didn't see it in the Kilkenny game. So it remains to be seen. Next weekend is going to be, I think, an eye-opener, hopefully in a good way.
Hopefully the weather's a little bit better next weekend. We actually get to see what it was like. Ryan, good stuff. Thanks a million for popping into us in the studio this morning. Now we're back talking football with Kenny Cunningham. Just